for this presentation, we're going to talk about a project that involves comparing Korean immigrant families and Canadian families on their definitions of family quality of life. So this study that we'll be talking about today was part of a larger study that looked at families of children with autism living in BC and looked at, in addition to their definitions of quality of life, looked at facilitators and barriers accessing services and supports. Just go to the next slide. Yep. So this is just an outline of topics that will be covered in this presentation. First, we'll go over definitions and key terms to familiarize ourselves with concepts that will be covered in this presentation, and then we'll look at the research question. We'll provide some context and rationale for this study, and then we'll talk about the results and conclusions and some implications for developing and administering culturally sensitive assessments. Okay. So culture can have very different meanings and definitions. It can refer to a person's ethnicity, language, their nationality, or religion. It can also be defined as groups who share similar traditions, beliefs, customs, history, and folklore. So why is culture important? So it impacts who we are and affects how we express ourselves, both as part of a group and as individuals. So in this study, we'll be comparing Korean immigrant families and Canadian families, but it's important to keep in mind that even within these cultures, there's so much diversity and heterogeneity. These seemingly like distinct groups, they're not homogeneous and the same, even within these cultures. Okay, so I think because this is a pretty small group, we won't break out into rooms. We'll kind of present this question to everyone, and feel free to unmute yourself and just unmute yourself, or you could also type in the chat. What does family quality of life mean to everyone, mean to all of you guys? So what do you think of when you hear this concept of family quality of life? What are things that are important to you?
I'm just going to jump in here, Vanessa. I can't see the chat, so if people, I don't know if you can.
Okay, I could look. Yeah, I can see it.
You can, but yeah, so people are saying I can't.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll provide some examples. So some people think that enjoying family time together is really important. Other families mention like financial security as being important. Does anyone else have any other ideas of what family quality of life means to you?
Maybe when my children thrive and me as a person thrive, this is a quality of life and I'm happy.
Yeah, that's a great definition. Does anyone have...
One person mentioned in the chat mental health for the entire family.
That's a great one. Yep.
I also feel about social support in the family system, like from the closer family participant, and also like a broader family, that you have a support with other members. It's really important too.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So not just supports within the family, but also like a broader network, social network.
Yes.
That's great. Are there any other definitions or aspects that are important? Okay, these are really good. We'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so now we'll talk about how family quality of life is understood and conceptualized in research. So in research, one of the most well-known definitions is that family quality of life is when the conditions of the family, their needs are met, and family members enjoy their life together and have the chance to do things which are important to them. So assessments for family quality of life comprise of both subjective and objective elements. So subjective elements would be things like emotional well-being, whereas objective elements will include things like a family's resources, their access to healthcare, and things like that. So family quality of life, it's a dynamic concept. So it recognizes that outcomes of the family, they're dynamic, they're fluctuating, and they change over time. It's also individually and family oriented. So this means that it considers individual characteristics, for example, characteristics related to the child with disability, but it also considers family level characteristics. So the composition of the family, whether there are multiple children in the household, the relationships between partners and between family members. And it's also, this concept emphasizes family individuality. So it recognizes that every family is different and they may show various strengths and challenges across different domains. And lastly, this concept is multidimensional. So it considers various domains or areas of functioning. So it'll look at things like parenting, like one of you said, the emotional and psychological aspects, but also available resources and supports for the family. So next slide. So what's central to this concept is that perception is a key element. So where one family may perceive a similar situation in a positive light, either as an opportunity or a blessing, another family in a similar situation may perceive a greater negative impact. So this is illustrated by these two quotes from two different families, where one family stated that autism has made us realize how precious and great to make each day. We love life. Whereas another family said that we realized the truth, and by the end of the day, we were distraught because we knew the truth about it. It was actually the worst day of our lives. That was the day we came to terms with the fact that we had this problem. So again, just perception is very critical to this concept of family quality of life. Next slide.
Sorry guys, I'm having a little trouble here advancing the slides. Okay.